3,500 years ago, the richest civilization on Earth didn't build a single wall. No fortress, no ramparts, no defensive towers around their greatest cities. While every other power in the Bronze Age hid behind stone, these people left their palaces wide open to the world. They could afford to. They controlled the sea. This was the first great empire in European history, a trading superpower so wealthy, so untouchable, that an enemy army was almost unthinkable. Their ships moved tin and copper, gold and ivory, wine and oil across the entire Mediterranean. Egypt knew them. Syria knew them. Their pottery has been dug up from the coast of Spain to the banks of the Nile, and then, in a few short generations, they were gone. The palaces burned. The ships stopped sailing. The wealth evaporated. A civilization that had ruled the waves for 600 years simply ran out. It wasn't an army that killed them. It wasn't even the volcano you've probably heard about. What destroyed the world's richest trade empire was something stranger and far more modern. This is the story of the Minoans, and this is case number 003. Start with the island. Crete, a long spine of mountains in the middle of the eastern Mediterranean, sitting exactly where Europe, Africa, and Asia almost touch. Whoever controlled Crete controlled the crossroads of the ancient world. And around 2000 BC, the people living there figured out how to turn that position into gold. We call them the Minoans. Though, and remember this, it matters later, that's not their name. They never called themselves that. We'll come back to it. What they built was unlike anything the world had seen. Sprawling complexes at Knossos, Phaistos, Malea, Zakros. We call them palaces, but they weren't really homes for kings. They were engines, economic machines. Inside, archaeologists found rows of storage jars taller than a man, hundreds of them, holding oil, wine, and grain. These palaces took in goods from across the island, stored them, and sent them back out across the sea. A centralized economy running 4,000 years ago, and what they traded made them rich beyond anything in Europe. From Crete itself, olive oil, wine, timber, wool, and a deep purple dye, extracted from sea snails, drop by drop. So valuable, it would later become the color of emperors. Their finely painted pottery became a luxury brand across the Mediterranean. You can find Minoan cups in the Levant, in Egypt, on islands near Sicily. But the real money wasn't in what they made. It was in what they moved. The Bronze Age ran on bronze, and bronze needs tin, a rare metal found almost nowhere near the Mediterranean. The Minoans became the middlemen. Tin from the distant east and west, copper from Cyprus, funneled through Cretan ports and out to the world. They sat in the middle of the most important supply chain of the age and took their cut of all of it. They imported wealth to match: ivory and lapis lazuli from Syria, gold and alabaster and ostrich eggs from Egypt. Egyptian tomb paintings show foreign traders bringing gifts, and some scholars believe these are the Minoans, the people the Egyptians called the Keftiu. Minoan-style frescoes have even been found in Egypt itself, painted on the walls of a palace far from Crete. This is what their wealth looked like at its height: bright, sunlit frescoes of dolphins and flowers and young athletes leaping over the horns of charging bulls. No scenes of war, no conquering kings. A civilization that decorated its walls not with battles, but with beauty. And that brings us back to the walls, or the lack of them. The Minoans didn't fortify their cities, and historians think they knew exactly why they didn't need to. Their navy ruled the Aegean so completely that no enemy could reach them. The sea was their wall. Hold on to that, because the thing that protected them was the same thing that would destroy them. Around 1600 BC, the world cracked open. On the island of Thera, modern Santorini, 100 kilometers north of Crete. A volcano erupted with a violence that defies imagination. It was one of the largest eruptions in human history. It blew the center out of the island, collapsed it into the sea, and threw ash so high and so far that it has been found in Egypt, in the Levant, as far as the Black Sea. The town of Akrotiri, a thriving Minoan port on Thera, was buried alive under meters of ash, frozen in place, like a Bronze Age Pompeii. For decades, this was the answer. Case closed. The volcano destroyed the Minoans. Tsunamis swamped their fleet, ash poisoned their fields, and the greatest sea empire in the world drowned under its own ocean. It's a clean story, it's dramatic, and it's wrong. Because here's what the archaeology actually shows. After the eruption, after the ash, after the tsunamis, the Minoans didn't collapse. They rebuilt, they kept trading. In fact, the period right after Thera is often considered the peak of Minoan art and culture. The most beautiful frescoes, the finest pottery, the height of their reach. They survived the worst eruption in 1,000 years and came out the other side at the top of their game. So if the volcano didn't kill them, what did? The answer isn't a disaster you can see. It's something slower. Something that took the eruption and turned it, over decades, into a death sentence the Minoans never saw coming. Think about what the Minoans actually were. Not a country, not an army, a network. Their entire power rested on a web of trade routes, hundreds of them, knitting Crete to the islands, to Egypt, to the Levant, to the sources of tin and copper. Every port was a knot in that web. Every route depended on the others. And the eruption didn't just bury one town. It erased an entire node. Akrotiri on Thera had been a critical way station, a stopover that linked northern Crete to the rest of the Aegean. When it vanished under the ash, it didn't just disappear. It made every route that passed through it longer, costlier, more dangerous. Researchers have actually modeled this, and what they found is chilling in how familiar it feels. Remove one major hub from a trading network, and the costs don't stay contained. They ripple. Routes that were barely profitable become losing ventures. Traders abandon them. Each abandoned route makes the next one less viable. The web doesn't snap, it frays slowly, knot by knot, over years and decades. The richest trade empire in the world wasn't killed by the volcano. It was killed by what the volcano did to its supply chain. But step out of the maps and the models for a moment, because this happened to people. Picture a harbor town on the Cretan coast. For 200 years, its people had watched ships come in heavy and leave heavier. Grain in the holds, their children fed, their walls unbuilt because no one had ever needed them. They had never known a hungry winter. They had never seen an enemy. And then, slowly, over a generation, the ships started coming less often, then half empty, then not at all. No one rang an alarm. There was no battle to point to, just a quiet harbor and a question passing from parent to child. Where did everyone go? And remember the hidden weakness from the beginning. The Minoans exported luxuries, but they imported necessities, grain, food, the things you actually need to survive. A civilization that lives by trade dies when trade dies. As the network frayed, the wealth that had built those open, unwalled palaces began to drain away, and a sea empire with no wealth is just an island. That's when the second blow landed. Across the water, on the Greek mainland, a harder, hungrier people had been watching, the Mycenaeans. Where the Minoans painted dolphins, the Mycenaeans built fortresses and forged swords. As Minoan trade weakened, the Mycenaeans moved in, taking over the routes, the markets, the wealth the Minoans could no longer defend. By 1450 BC, it was over. Across Crete, the palaces burned, every one of them except Knossos, and Knossos itself fell under Mycenaean control, its records now written in Greek. The unwalled cities that the navy once made untouchable had nothing left to protect them, because the thing that made them strong, the trade, was already gone. The sea that had been their wall became the road their conquerors sailed in on. So what's left of the world's richest empire? Ruins on a hillside, beautiful faded frescoes of a people who loved the sea, and a mystery that, after more than a century, we still can't solve, because we don't actually know who they were. Minoan is a name we made up, invented in 1900 by the archaeologist who dug up Knossos, named after the legendary King Minos. We don't know what these people called themselves. We don't know what language they spoke, and we can't read their words. They left behind thousands of clay tablets covered in a script we call Linear A, and in over 100 years, no one has ever deciphered it. We can sound the symbols out. We just have no idea what they mean. The richest trading empire in history kept meticulous records of its wealth, and those records are written in words that died with the people who wrote them. Maybe you know them by a different story. A maze beneath a palace, a monster that was half man, half bull, the Greeks who came after told of King Minos, and a labyrinth at Knossos, and the Minotaur waiting in the dark. We think the bull leapers in those frescoes became the monster. We think the maze-like ruins of Knossos became the labyrinth. The Minoans vanished so completely that they survived only as a myth, a bedtime story about the empire the world forgot was real. And the case isn't closed. In 2024, builders breaking ground for a new airport on Crete uncovered something no one expected. A vast circular monument, 8 stone rings nested inside one another, more than 3,000 years old. Archaeologists are calling it one of the most important finds of the century, and they have no idea what it was for. The world's richest trade empire didn't fall to an army, and it didn't fall to a volcano. It fell because it was built entirely on something invisible, the flow of goods across the sea. And when that flow broke, everything else followed. They were the first to learn a lesson the modern world keeps relearning. A fortune built on trade is only as strong as the routes that carry it. What do you think really ended them? Drop your theory below. I read every one. This was case number 003, the empire that ruled the sea and vanished into a myth. Case number 003 remains open.